Good on everybody.
Good on.
It's Tady and Nata here again. We want to welcome you all to this onboarding module. So this is like a pre-class. What we're going to cover in this session here is a few things. It's like the what, the why, and the how. Let me just run through quickly on some of these slides here so it gives you a coverage. So we've got three agendas. Like I said, we want to cover the what is TPRS, the methodology, its history, and the three most important criteria that we were looking for when we were looking for a system, a language acquisition system, which constituted getting results. So the second agenda that we've got on today is to explain the difference between language acquisition, language learning, comprehensive input, and all these things, because it's like going into a big melting pot, and they make a difference as to whether you pick up the language and do it in an easy manner and work with your what's natural in you, with all of us actually, our natural language pickup frame, and just make it easy for you to achieve fluency. So the third agenda that we've got is we'll explain the strategy, the TPRS strategy, and then the tactics. With regards to the tactics, we're talking about how a class actually runs so that you get a sort of a preview. So when you turn up your first class on Wednesday, I think it's Wednesday, there's no spookies. You sort of got a an idea of what's going to happen from a teaching point of view. And I'll just clarify that I don't do the teaching, she does the teaching. So I'll be there to support and help, learn as well, but I don't do the teaching. So that's the agenda that we've got. At the end of the day, this TPRS form of language acquisition, we want to have an end result. We want to know a goal for you so that you're clear as to, you know, where you are now and then where you're going to end up. And from a TPRS teaching point of view, our goal is to ensure that you learn to express yourself with strong and accurate communication with no hesitation.
Yes, with confidence.
So through the system, you'll be able to pick up these attributes because you might have been in a situation before where you might know a little bit of the language and then there's this like hesitation
to speak.
Because not sure say the word or how to say this word or saying it in right, and we've all been there. If it's a second language, we've all been there. So with this system, these are our goals. We want to make sure that you end up with strong, accurate communication and no hesitation. And as we go through, we'll explain to you the no hesitation part. So, and one of the big things you should be asking yourself, even before you committed to the program, and we thank you for that again, is, hey, what is in this for me, you? So where we're coming from is we're understanding that at the moment you don't have the real, you don't have the gumboots to speak in the language, and you want to make that transition from going from zero to hero, to be able to communicate, to lead, to express yourself in our language. And that's going from, I used to call it, because I probably was you 5-10 years ago, and I used to sort of walk around with like low shoulders because I was not a Kiwi. I was not I wasn't a New Zealand Maori, even though a lot of people think that we are Maoris because we can speak like the bros. But then when you go onto a marae or something and they ask you, you know, what they call it, there's a Maori thing that you go through, your hill, your maunga, your awa, and all that. And then, we're from the South Pacific, so it was like,
You're not sure yourself.
we'd drown it down and make fun of it, say, oh, we're Ngāti Cocos, and just to take the seriousness of it, and people would laugh. But the reality is that we were a bit ashamed that we didn't really weren't able to call ourselves real Cook Islands. Oh, yeah, we're from the Cook Islands, but when they ask you speak out reo, and we say, no, don't speak out reo, oh, so you're plastic Cook Island. So those sort of things.
Sort of mindset.
So this is where we want to help you get from going from disconnected to connected, from feelings of maybe no identity to confident and proud Cook Islander. So this is what the TPRS system is going to help you do, and we're looking forward to the challenge. We're going to go over the rules. The TPRS has rules, and they have more to do with in processes and procedures that we have through the class, because they've worked it out for years, and it just works. So the TPRS stands for, in case you didn't know, teaching proficiency through reading and stories. So the methodology is done through story and reading and a lot of interaction. Okay, so we just wanted to cover that course. The question comes up: why use story? Because traditional education systems, they have textbooks and teachers and all that sort. Well, the thing is, you just have to take yourself back to when you were a kid, and if you were lucky that your parents read to you every night or whatever, and then come through, and we love stories. We remember stories. You go to church, and you got someone speaking, whether it's an elder or whatever, a minister. And they're making their points. They're connecting with stories. They give us stories so that it touches us emotionally. We can feel, we can sort of be in there of the story and put ourselves there and go, oh yeah, that makes sense, So with stories, it's easy to get feeling. It's easy to remember the stories, which means remembering the main point. And stories are interesting. Like, the opposite to interesting is boring. And, oh, this sucks. Whereas, I remember when I was at school, and that's how I felt about school. Textbooks and history and boring. But stories, well, that's different, especially when
For example,
when the stories resonate with you.
A teacher might read, and you're not interested, but the tone of the teacher, the way she's reading and telling the story, you get interested into. So you listen.
Yeah, so
catches your attention.
Stories stories have been since man started. Hieroglyphics on caves and drawings of bisons or whatever it was, elephants, tigers. You've seen them, seen them on the movies that coming through. So stories are it's a good way to connect and to learn things and pick things up. It's fun. And the good thing with TPRS, once you've got your bootstraps going, we actually get students to co-create the stories. There's a reason we do that. It's because we call it the way out method. And the way out method refers to something like this. If we're talking about a cow, or sorry, a dog, and it's the pink dog that went to talk to the white cow. Well, actually, everybody's seen a white cow, but nobody's seen a pink dog. And that has a tendency to stick up here. It's way out. It's out of the box thinking, and it gets to be real fun when a student starts off And it's like that game, you know, you start off with something and then the next person comes in and puts something in their slant on it, and then the next one comes in and puts their slant on, and the story goes from being something there was just a normal blend to gone way out and you know, way out. But the key is, because it's gone way out, it's gone out of the box, it's easy to remember, and people get emotionally involved. And when you get emotionally involved with anything, including language learning, it tends to stick on your subconscious. So
You'll
yeah.
be using more imaginations. Use your imagination.
So we also use reading. And when we say reading, you've got to imagine it's a 1 hour class that we're doing. So all these different inputs are sort of chugging along at the same time. It's not like you're hearing, oh, you got to do 5 minutes of this and then we got to do 5 minutes of that. No, it's all mixed in at the same time. Now, reading, remember when we were small, you were small, English, and you know, we're running around and we're talking with our mates and growing up toddlers and preschoolers and all that. And it wasn't until we went to school that we actually were put in front of books, and then we started reading. And as you go reading through the standards, the intermediates, the colleges, depending on what sort of reader or student you were and what interested, when you read, you just get a blow up in your vocab, because we've got their words, they're right in front of you, they're freeze frame, you know, the words are there, the phrases are there, there's pictures to go with the words. And so your brain could actually slow down and assimilate or get used to what's going on. Whereas if you're listening to somebody going on 100 miles an hour, your brain goes, oh, whatever.
Overwhelmed.
So reading is really, it's a real vocab booster, actually. If anything, when you're starting to learn any language, you want to spend a lot of time listening and reading, using your eyes and allowing the machine behind your eyes to pick up these words. And after a while, you keep seeing words and words you might not know. And then after a while, you might read the words around it and you start getting context. You know, you start working out, oh, that must mean because that. Okay. So reading actually is a great way to pick up, to acquire the language, especially ours, or any language for that matter. And there's that direct eye to brain processing going on all the time. And so it really blows up. It blows up your ability to take in words. Like when we were small, it's when we went to school, then we had to read books, then we started speaking more words and not so many swear words, or not so many words that we learned from the home or from the neighborhood or whatever. So reading is story and reading together is key elements in this system. Okay, so what we've got here, we just want to run through a bit of history, and you can, I think we've put somewhere, Google it, but there was a guy who started this particular type, TPRS, teaching proficiency through reading and stories. But before that, he had TPR, which was just, it was called Total Physical Response. And you could go on YouTube and type in TPR. And TPR is teaching languages through physical, you know, gestures, physical, like for the word run in our language, oro, so you act as if you're running, or the word to fly, make the manu, you know, and that use physical gestures. And they went on to advanced that with and added storytelling to this physical way of teaching. And physicals, the history of it is we got different modalities of learning. Some people they can learn from the visuals or what leans towards academic stuff, reading, writing stuff. As some people they learn physically, and some other people they learn through audio, listening, musicians, that sort of thing. So everyone's got different learning modality. So they adapted the total physical response, which was working well for physical, what they call kinesthetic learners. But they found that the academic learners, they needed something else as well as the physical. So that's why they picked in the storytelling angle, and it became a lot more successful, I guess the word is. And there was a lot of theory coming out in those days about this word called comprehensive input. Now, we'll go over that a lot more later, but we just wanted to give you the background, the history of where this TPRS thing came from. And when you mixed up the physical gestures, to help learners with storytelling, and then you throw into the pot comprehensive input, which sort of means comprehensive means understanding. You comprehend, you understand, and you're understanding the messages from different inputs. That was a faster way to help students to get to fluency. Combine that with interaction, a lot of talking with the teachers, so that the students get practice. So what I've got there, we got there is traditional classes at school. They usually take 400 to 600 hours to get to intermediate B1 and B2 levels. Whereas with the TPRS system, they measured it and it was under 100 hours, normally 80 to 90. And we've got there the pub test. Now, what the pub test is you basically, when you go to a pub and you sit down and you start talking to blokes or friends around, whoever, strangers, you don't know. And that is the pub test, which is aligns with intermediate B2 level, where you are just fluent, you can speak on different areas, you can talk on your job, you ask questions, just like you're at a pub and you're just meeting someone new.
A conversation.
Yeah. But a real conversation, not just this conversation like kia ora ana, pia koe, mitaki au, thank you very much, bye. No, it's a real conversation. You talk about politics, you talk about church, you talk about your family, you talk about your sports, everything. So that's the TPRS that you need to understand or need to be aware of, that it takes 1/4 of the time from traditional learning systems. And if that's what you're after, you're in the right place. So just a real quick of who we are. We started cookislandslanguage.com, I think probably about 15 to 18 years ago, when our kids were learning at home.
Yes.
And we got the site name, and we just thought one day we'd probably use it, just grab it. And we've had that domain for a long time. But if you were to go on YouTube, you will see our kids were small, putting out lessons when they, I think, how old were they about? They were young. They were 6, 5, 6.
Yeah,
and they
up
just
to 12?
Yeah.
Up to 11 or 12 years old?
So we've had quite a bit of experience with teaching our children the language. And what we were looking for was, we looked at our methodology, which we found out is called the natural system. And, this when you teach kids, Even in English, it doesn't take one month or 6 months. It takes time because
Takes a while.
takes a while. They acquire the language over time. Yeah, they can run around and if you got a 3-4 year old, you think, okay, how can they speak? Man, and it's usually they take 10 years, 10, and then go up to teenage years. So it takes a bit of time to get real good at English. In this system, we looked at how we did the natural progression with our children, and we thought we've got to find the system that is near as damn to how we've brought them up, because we found that if we can get a system that's close to how we did, if not the same, then to be able to serve others and to ensure that they get their goals, their results in real time, we'll be doing the right thing, not just putting information out there and saying, here, go and learn this. It doesn't work like that. Even with our children, your children, you didn't just put stuff in front of them and say, here, go learn it yourself. No, there was a natural, progressive way of teaching and for them to pick up. And we thought, because we researched all around and we found that there is no course in the Cook Islands language category that has a course available at intermediate B1 or B2 to the CEFL, which is the Common Framework of European Languages. Now you can Google that, Common Framework European Languages. What that is all those guys, all those countries, back in the day, they got together and because there's so many countries border to border, real close to each other. So they decided to have a standard, uniform language system. And there's six stages that they come up with, which the rest of the world follow. There's 6 stages. There's beginners 1 and 2. There is intermediate 1 and 2, and then there's advanced, which is the C level 1 and 2. For most purposes, a lot of people do not take C1 or 2, which is advanced, when they're learning or language, because they just want it for conversation, to go to countries, to be able to speak. You only take the C1 and 2 levels when you're, it's needed for academics, or you're an engineer and you're going into a particular country and you need technical speak, C1 and 2. But otherwise, it's widely regarded as B2 intermediate as the accepted level for fluency in any language. So we did our homework, and nobody in the Cook Islands market has that, whether an institution or whether private. So that we made that our goal, and we said what we'll do is we'll get a system that we can license and use their system, because it's all proven. And we are systems people, actually. We'd rather have systems that work. Like McDonald's is a system, KFC is a system, Warehouse is a system. They've worked it out well before we even thought of it. So that's what TPRS is, by the way. It's a system. So when we were looking, there were 3 important criteria that we looked for. One, was it a natural language system that progressed naturally? 2, did they use real words? And that was important, because we found that the textbook, when you have a textbook, you got random words, you got all sorts of words that you might not even use. And we always asked ourselves, why would they using those words, or putting those, making people learn, those lists of words when they don't even use them? So for us, it was a question of getting the high frequency words that we used in our own family. And what we discovered was around the world, they got the same thing. You got Spanish, Japanese,
In
German,
all the
French,
languages,
in English, they the same thing, high frequency words. And I've got the sweet 16 verbs. There is these sweet 16 verbs that in every language, you got to know those verbs: to have, to be, to want, what else? To put, to take, to give,
to eat,
to last.
sit.
So these are high frequency words that you're going to use in your sentences all the time. So, you know, when you look at textbooks, you will never see this thing being ironed out and say, oh, here are the high frequency words. It seems like they make you do 3-4 years worth of study of words which were needed. You're never going to use them anyhow. So anyhow, that was a second criteria. And then the third one was it got to be fun and it got to be interesting. Because if it ain't fun, we learn from our kids, if it ain't fun and if it ain't interesting, it's like pushing uphill. And we parents are a bit like that too. If it ain't fun or it's not interesting, we just go, whatever,
Maybe
later.
you can see your children when you try and make it not fun to them, they just turn away.
Yeah, so just checking on our timing here. So yeah, the important thing is natural acquisition. Oh, sorry, this one I got to go over properly. This one, I thought, oh, just natural. We just no. Natural acquisition steps. What that means is like our kids, they didn't write before they learned to listen. No, they as babies, like all of us, they listen, and oh man, there was this kid. I remember Japanese kid next to us when we used to stay in Muriwai. And long story short, this kid, my boys used to go and play with this kid, but the kid hardly say anything because he can't speak English. It's straight from Japan. Then, oh, go play the ball and it'll say ball, and then didn't hardly say anything. And then I was talking to his parents, to father, and I said, "As kids going, you can take your kid to school." And he said, "Yeah, we take to school so you can learn the English." I think it was 6 months. And then because my kids were homeschooled, and then this kid come over, and then he was talking. My boys were talking to him, and then he was talking to them, and then I went out and listened. And man, this kid was talking like he's been talking for the last, he's only a little fella, 6, whatever. And then I asked his father, I said, "Hey, how come he didn't talk so fast?" He said, "Oh, in Japan we understand listen first, take in, listen, and once finished, listen, got enough, take time, and then it's gonna come out." And then I said, "Oh man, you Cookie and Maori kids aren't like that. They come out before they even." So yeah, that's the principle though. That actually is true. You listen first. You look at the babies. Their eyes tell you, and their smiles tell you, but they're soaking it up and they're just listening. And that's what we found with the kids, and it's also what we need to import ourselves as adults, because there's a 3-step process. You got to take in the inputs first, comprehensive inputs. You got to listen, read, watch the video, or listen to the music, sing the music if you want, sing the song.
Listen to conversations.
Yeah. Because what's happening then is we got a little thing in our brain called a filtering mechanism. And that thing up there is taking it all in, like that little Japanese kid I was talking about. And then the time will come when it's just like out. Because it's been chopping away up here in the subconscious, actually. And it's been doing it with no stress. It's just being like, taking it all in its stride. Yeah.
And when it's ready to come out, then you speak.
Yeah. And that's a really important principle for us as adult learners. I mean, we're busy. We know that. Some of us under stress, paying bills, and all that sort of stuff. We understand that, but it's really critical with comprehensive input that you find some time to have when you do your language stuff to be free of those worries and anxieties and all that, and just like meditate. Learn to meditate, but you got to be free of those things.
Slow it down.
And then when you are in the class, same thing. The research has shown that if a person in the class is afraid to speak, that creates anxiety for them,
Mm.
and that's anti
It stops
language
them, yeah.
acquisition, and it stops the natural language
Yeah.
progression thing.
Their progress. Yes.
So that's a really important principle. Wherever you go to learn a language, low stress, low anxiety, and no fear. Good teachers, they'll understand that and bypass and say it's okay. Next, and we encourage that in TPRS system because it's when you're ready, when you want to, you're out there. And then the other thing, so we were looking at natural acquisition steps, and do they come in from different angles? Comprehensive input, watch, listen, all those sort of things, music, read, all those sort of things. And then the third thing was, are they accessible? What's accessible? What does accessible mean? Are there definite milestones on their learning so that they can check it off and say, yeah, achieved that? Last thing you want is to say, I'm intermediate level, and then you get a testing or talk at an intermediate level, and you go, oh, sorry, beginner. You don't want to be in a situation where because you weren't assessed and you didn't have actual milestones to assess you by yourself, that you didn't hit the level of fluency that you thought you were. Okay, so the system that we were looking for needed to have that, and we got it. Okay, what else we got? So just common sense for us, common sense, and hopefully for you, you'd see too, it's common sense approach. We got down there really thing. Focus on high frequency words that you will use every day. And then number 2, no grammar. This is one of the biggest pains or against of language learning that people have worldwide, all over. Majority of them get stuck and hate the grammar. And because of the grammar, they go like this, watch. It's like a pain. So with the TPRS system, grammar doesn't really. We have what's called pop-up grammar, and that lasts for 20 seconds if someone asks or if it really needs to be explained. But luckily with the Google Island language, it's not that hard. It's easy. Just really quickly, subject, verb, object, normal English, Google Island, object, subject, verb, or something like that.
Yeah,
but it's not. See, that's why you don't want to learn the grammar.
Don't worry about the grammar.
You just want to do natural speaking.
Yes. You don't know it's grammar, but it's grammar. It's in the process.
Yeah.
That goes slowly.
Let me give you an example of, when we were small, right? And that includes you, right? And you think how old you were running around, 1, 2, up to the age of 5. And we could speak, man. We could just go like a rocket. And we did not know this word called grammar. And actually, I don't think I I don't know if I got the word grammar said to me at the age of 7, 9, or whatever. I do remember it came up somewhere around intermediate or Form 3. I don't know what that is nowadays. But then this grammar thing, what? I don't want to learn that crap. It wasn't late that and then it got worse when we had to study Shakespeare. Well, sorry, but when you think of it, with our natural English thing, we didn't need grammar. We just ran around, just spoke. We speak. We caught it. We tutor. We don't need grammar. And how did we do that? Just by natural learning and then copying other people and what they say and picking it up. Yeah. We didn't worry about rules. We didn't worry about A before E, or I before E, except after C. Remember that one?
Right.
How to spell receive and believe. All that rules we don't. Oh yeah, sure. As you get into the intermediate stages of the course, yeah, grammar's gonna come to the fore. But by that time, you'll have 60 hours worth of words, and this is the key, guys. You really want to be fluent, you just load up on words, because when you load up on words and phrases, it just comes out. And then through just speaking, yeah. But it comes up, the grammar comes up in the intermediate levels. So the last thing we've got there, common sense, is just it goes in stages. You chew it up as you go, and then a lot of repetition. Well, we didn't learn how to, in one hit we knew it all. Nah, just repetition. Yeah, whether it's in the house, playing the sports, going to school, repetition. Your mother said it all the time, your father said it all the time. And we got to do the same, because when we repeat and repeat and repeat, there's a saying, repetition is the mother of all learning. Simple. Okay, so now I'm going to go into distinct language acquisition versus language learning. Let me do the what everybody knows is the word learn. I'm going to learn a language, but they don't say I'm going to pick up or acquire a language. And actually, that's what we really do with language. Again, I want you to ask you to remember when you went to school and you were studying English and maths and science. What's the difference? Well, maths and science are what they call formulaic subjects. What's that? You got a formula to it. A plus B equals C. Those sort of subjects. But language, English language, and all language are not formulas. So you can't learn it like a formula. And the key word is you don't learn it. It's not a learned thing. You learn maths, you do your times table, you have to do your pluses and then your times tables and integers or whatever, fractions or whatever. You got to learn it. You can't get away from it. You're not going to acquire that. You learn it. But language, because it's not a formula. Language is all over the place. So you got to pick it up over time. You got to have repetition going on all the time so that you understand it. And then the thing with language, when you acquire a language, how could I explain this where you can really understand it? When we acquire a language, it goes straight to our subconscious. Because we got conscious and subconscious. When you That's how come you can remember the words that you use, because you didn't learn the words. It went straight to the subconscious guy, and he knows it, and he'll pick it up, and he remembers it every time you need to use it, and you use it. But any word that you have to learn, and anything that you do have to learn that goes to conscious, is short term. And that's why when you go do exams at school, and you swat up, and then after the 3 hours is up, you finish your exam, it's gone with the wind. Because it was a conscious process. It wasn't to the subconscious, unless you really loved it and you're that type that put it to your subconscious. But man, most of us, we did our exams and the next day it's all gone, finished, forgot it, never ever used it. So when you acquire a language, it tends to sit on your, we like to call it a caveman, Yeah. Got two sitting on your shoulder, the good one and the bad one. And, this one says, oh, you shouldn't smoke and drink. And this one says, have a puff, man. have a drink. So anyhow, that's language too. When we hear and listen and hear someone say something, and you say, what's that? What did you just say? Teach him so he understands. Oh, okay. Phrases like that, you hold on to it. There you go. Easy. They'll sit on you. But the ones that you actually have to go and learn, like, what's that word that burnt offerings? Tarangara. Yeah, that's an example. Had to learn this word out of the Bible, burnt offerings, and because had to learn it and I didn't like it, so boring. I don't remember it. And we all like that. We got some of us know the stuff that we like, and some of us don't like. Our subconscious knows the ones that we want to hold on to, and then the ones that, So we acquire language over time through different mediums, and the ones that we really need and want stick on our caveman, because we're going to use it. We know we're going to use it, and we know we need it. Those ones that I'm not going to use it much, we have to learn it, because someone said we got to learn it, it's going to be in an exam. Short term, flies away. So this is what I say, when you learn a language, it's sort of forced into you. There's a bit of a thing with the education system. They have timetables, they have deadlines. Teachers have assessment things. They got to assess the kid, and it's got to be reported. And that's not language learning. That's trying to squeeze a natural process into a horse stable, and then they wonder why the kids don't end up learning the languages, whether it's Spanish, German, French, or whatever. They just learn it just to get the marks, and they pass, and that's it. But they don't end up being fluent. That's a bit of a problem. Again, it's a conscious thing when you have to learn words, lists of words, which have no bearing or meaning or relevance to you, real relevance, and things like grammar. You go, just the motivation not there, it was not good. And all this stuff, when you learn something, is what they call cognitive processes, which means using the mentals. And most of us just like the easy flow, no effort. So if there's a choice between doing something the easy way and the hard way, we all want the easy way. So, who wants to study when learn it just listening and then copying and then use it when you want? So a bit of pain associated with the learning module. But the worst thing is, end up not being able to speak language fluent. Yeah, they can write, they can answer multiple choice questions, but when you ask them, can you speak the language? All right. So that's yeah, we want change on that. So here's the difference between language and acquisition of language. Learning language and acquisition. One is forced, one is natural. One is goes to the conscious and then bye-bye, and the other one goes to the subconscious and it sticks with you. One, the end point is you're going to pass the exam, good on you, versus speaking fluently. That's up to you. But fluently, in our terms, means not only can you speak, but you can read and write fluently. Same thing. But the emphasis is on the whole lot, not just one academic answer questions on a piece of paper, but you can't speak the language. No. Grammar rules versus no rules, just natural conversation, natural learning. And you get to know what's the right thing when someone says something, and then you copy them, and then the feedback, you get straight away feedback, yeah, tano tao, or it's, hey, tao get tao tu man you may day, you know, hey, you said it wrong, do it like this, okay? When you learn, it's boring and you don't look forward to it, as opposed to something that's interesting, fun. Learning hesitant, mga little bit scared, versus certainty, because you got strong and accurate communication, confident. And the reason is because repetition and gone over there and done there and done there, verbally, easily, easily, everything. And then the other one is with learning, with when you acquire a language, it tends to go to the subconscious. And the subconscious is their little caveman that wants things. He wants it for a reason. Whereas the other one, what we call the short-term memory guy, the conscious one, got all the ideas, but got all the gears, no ideas, that type. It's just a temporary.
Then it sits there for a moment and then it's gone.
Gone. Okay, so hopefully that clears up or helps you understand the difference between language and acquisition. Now we get to this word called comprehensible input. Big studies being done on it. And what it means is having different ways, different messages coming into you where you could understand it. You're not struggling. So when you start learning a language, it's got to be like how to put relevant, age appropriate, level appropriate. No use like drowning you with a lot of water and you can't swim. Okay, so comprehensible input means you can understand 95% of what's coming out, whether you're deducing it by the pictures, by the intonation of how the person is saying it, or just working out things as you're going along. And the fastest way to work it out is when someone translates it straight in front of you, so you don't have to go back. It's not the best way. Best way, when you start, you'll need that. But the best way is actually when your brain needs to work. It's a bit like weights. It needs the resistance. It needs to work so that it really remembers and goes to the subconscious. So that's what this comprehensible input thing, the more ways that are coming into you, input into you, whether it's through music, whether it's through reading, whether it's through a teacher, whether it's through gestures, whether it's through signs, whether it's through writing, the more ways that it comes to you and you can comprehend it, which means understanding it, you'll be faster and more solid. This goes straight to the subconscious. Okay. So what do we got here? Now we've got some examples. Going to turn our focus on to this is an example of when we start classes. Okay. The reason we pulled up this is because there's the Cook Island words, there's the English translation, there's the boy picture, there's the teacher pronouncing and giving you listening practice. And then one of the other elements is questionings. So in the top and the bottom frames, you will see all the questions. Like in English, we have who, where, what, how, who, where, what, how, why, how many, all that. And that's in every frame as you go through TPRS, because you learn a lot through questioning. I mean, that's all education is. Education is all about answering or asking and answering questions, and more and more and more asking, answering questions, and more and more and more. So we've got there those questions in TPRS. Those are solid guidelines up there, because once you go through this, you'll know all the questions in the world to ask, and you will also know all the questions to answer. So that this is an example of comprehensive input, making it easier and easy for you to understand messages. Okay? You want to expand on that? Or? Okay. So there is another thing, interaction. Go back to when you were a kid. Your parent, your mum, usually the mum, baby. A lot of interaction between mum and child, baby. Growing up, 2-year-old, a lot of interaction, In TPRS, same thing. We are considered a language parent for that interaction capacity, the interacting side. So, yeah, and we've got examples up there of the interaction. The coach, the teacher makes statements, the student responds, the teacher helps with the right answers, and through her speaking, the kids start listening and getting pronunciation and accents and nuances like that. And then, student starts to respond, get meaning. It goes like this, interaction. Okay. A lot of questions, a lot of repetition, a lot of grounding, check student understanding, and you get that through the interaction between the teacher parent, the language parent, and the student, in this case you. If you don't have that level of interaction, it's not impossible. But that's where you get the 400 to 600 hours, I suppose. Takes a while. And it takes a while. It takes a long time. So when you got a teacher who's the parent, and you got the teacher helps, the child, we're talking about the baby in there, grow, and the baby starts acquiring in the head stuff, like the 6-year-old Japanese boy I was talking about, at his pace, slowly. Then there's a element of trust that's been built. And when the trust is there, low or no anxiety, That's how you get to fluency. You get there by comprehensive input plus interaction. That's how you get to fluency. Okay, now we'll talk about strategy. We're going to talk two things here, strategy and tactics, and we're on the way home. It's all downhill from here. Do you want to go over this?
You go over this.
The TPRS strategy, I just want you to imagine you're starting off, you're getting in the car, you're driving. It's going to be slow at first. No two ways about that. And that's why if you've seen the 4 stages, the majority of the work, shall we call it, or the investment in time is in the founders level at the bottom. 30 hours here, another 30 hours there. Because what you're doing is you're acquiring words, phrases, sentences, and that takes a bit of time. It's only like that at the beginning stages. A lot of repetition, a lot of novelty. But once you start getting into the intermediate, pre-advanced, intermediate stage, and you've got your bootstraps on and they're pretty solid, then it starts flying pretty fast then. Because, it sort of goes like this. You see my hand going like that, and then it goes straight up. Because the bulk of the language is acquired down here, and then as you start using it, and as you start having different experiences, different conversations, and more confidence to use it in different scenarios, environments, events that you go to, it just scales up. So that's actually that's why this course will take 2 years. You do not have to take it all at one hit. You can take one portion first and have a rest, and then take the next portion when it comes on, and take the next. We can't honestly say that someone's taken it all in 2 years.
That's why it's a very slow process.
Yeah, at the beginning.
Yeah.
But it's not slow when you consider how long it took you to learn English. I mean, you're getting to fluency within 2 years with this program. So that's a pretty good return on investment, return on time. And when you put it into context, how long are you going to live for? You may as well get started now, right? It's never too late to learn. Okay, so just a couple of rules, and they're just kanga rules, play rules.
2 rules in this
system.
1, it's the teacher's story, and 2, anything is possible in the story. What's going to happen in the story?
And that's where the novelty comes. That's where the fun comes. That's where it's different. You go way out there, the blue cat or the pink cow. and you build on after that. Somebody else might come with the lady with 4 legs. Yeah, stupid, but that's how you remember them. Easy, the stories. Okay. We also have a system in the TPRS system. There's no force of speaking the language, whether it's Spanish, German, or Cook Islands.
You're not forced to. Oh, no. It's up to you.
And it goes back to that concept. We understand in the system, and when you acquire a language, a lot of the bulk of it is taking it in the first stages anyhow. Like the 6-year-old Japanese guy, the boy I was telling the story, just taking it in, go to school, surrounded by the environment, taking it in, and then next minute, it just comes out. Yeah. So in this system, nobody is forced to speak. Most welcome to interact and engage, up to you. But if not, it's quite easy. Just I'll pass on this one, Miss Sweet Ass. And same when using names.
You can use names of people and places in English.
Yeah. So this is an idea of class processes and procedures. We'll do it together, and I'm going to act as a student, and she's going to be the teacher. Okay.
So I'm the teacher. First thing, I'm going to say to all the students, e te katoto.
Yo.
Okay, that's how you're going to answer. Yo.
Because when she's asking, we got to answer. Yeah. Click the next one.
2, I'm going to say a sentence. Where's the slide? The slide. E tamaiti tetai. And you're going to say,
Oh.
ko George te tamaiti.
Oh. Look at why they say that.
You got to act it like, oh, it's something really interesting to you, make it really very interesting.
I'll be honest with you.
Exciting.
First time that we went through this teacher training stuff for this, I was like, real like
Whatever.
hardcore. What? Right? What? But then I realized after a while, because it's sort of like a prompter. And even as that does, oh really? It's that. It's like, oh true. Oh, and it's good to suspend being an adult, Sometimes it's just good to be playful and let when we were little kids, just let it all hang out, and and then the subconscious in there remembers things. And then when you hear someone speaking in the language, because it's happened to me a lot, still with you. Oh, I didn't know that. So it's like a neuro, A neuro is something inside you that associate that. And when you go learn this system, it's like a good neuro, a good learning neuro. So anyhow, let's carry on.
Okay. So that's when I say the sentence and you go,
whoa. Go back.
Okay.
Go back. Oh, this sentence. So the first one was a question. Whoa. 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 And then the second is a sentence. And then, whoa.
George te tamaiti.
Oh.
So the 3, I will ask a question which you already know the answer. So 3, go back to me. Ko ai te tamaiti?
Ko George.
So you can say it, go back to 3, say it in 1 or 2 words.
Yeah.
So I ask, who's the boy? George.
No long answers. It's just short.
Only short answers.
There's deliberate reason why. And one of the reasons is it's just checking comprehension first.
Yeah.
And later on you get a chance to expand.
Okay. Number 4, I'm gonna ask a question and I haven't given you the answer and nobody knows the answer. It's unknown. And it's a surprise. Now, I ask the question and you're going to guess what's the answer.
This is where we got to work out as a student, start working out. Boom, boom, boom. And we're going to surprise it,
If you don't.
So here's an example. Here's an example.
Ko George, te tamaiti numero tai.
Oh. Can you see the
You
one?
can see the one in the corner
okay.
there.
Okay, so you gotta watch out, man. You
So,
gotta watch
okay,
this.
I'm
Okay.
gonna ask the question. Ko ai te tamaiti numero rua. It's the four.
Where's the four?
Go back to unknown. Okay, so there you go. You don't know the answer, but you give me some answers. And remember, though, the story is mine. So I'll tell you what's the next statement. Okay, so that's what it means, the unknown and the surprise. You're guessing what's the answer.
So what did you ask? So that we're clear. Mani may taka di abiyang.
Unknown. I'm gonna ask a question and you're gonna guess. So this is where the game is on. So you're guessing what's the answer.
We may read the question.
Ko ai te tamaiti numero rua.
Okay, for those who don't know the language and you're learning, she just asked, who is the boy number 2? Okay, haven't covered because there's only a number 1 on that screen. George is number 1, and then the answer could be, well, what some of the answers?
Yeah, the answer could be
Nobody.
Dr. Joe, or you might say, oh, it's me, or it's her, or it's him.
This is where the surprise answer comes in. You make your own answer. But George is number 1. He's not the boy number 2.
Yeah.
That's the exercise. Okay?
So guess. But we got to remember the story is mine. It's the teacher's story.
Which means she leads the questions and they're designed to make you think. Okay? Okay. So just to recap on that, tactics. This is a tactical method in the teaching.
The procedures.
Procedures. Number 1.
E te katotoa. Number 1, I ask everybody.
Sort of like a call to attention.
Yeah.
Yes, Captain.
Everybody, yes.
Number 2.
And then I give you the sentence.
And we go,
George,
oh.
Yes, everybody goes, oh.
Okay. Number 3.
I'll ask the question, who is the boy?
And we should know the answer. 1 or 2 words called George. Number 4.
Number 4. Remember, George is boy number 1. So who is boy number 2?
Kare tangata boy number 2.
Nobody knows.
Nobody knows.
Yes.
Cool. Maybe me. But
surprise me.
Yeah. So through this process, there's lots of mechanics happening. Listening, pronunciation, comprehending, thinking. Not hard. Yeah. But yeah. This is right at the beginning of the starting of classes. As things get on and on, we'll be, long. But then what are you doing? You're getting strong, accurate, no hesitation, communication.
Yes.
And that's the key. Always got to remember that. That's the goal. Sentences, your name.
Sentences. In the class, if I call your name as a student and ask you the question, you give me full sentence. And in this number 2, it comes to a time I'll ask you describe the story, describe the situation. So you're gonna tell me in full sentence, what have you learned up to that time I'm asking you? you had to say, oh, George is the boy. Ko George te tamaiti. Ko George e tamaiti te tai.
Let me give you an example in English of this whole process real quick so that you sit there going, what does that mean? Okay, it's like this. Through the script story, we're learning about a guy called George, boy called George, and he lives in Mangere, and then he wants a Coca-Cola. And he rings his friend over in Papatui. Hey, have you got a Coca-Cola? No, I ain't got a Coca-Cola, mate. I got Sprite. Okay, I want a Coca-Cola. Okay, mate, you ring Penny. She's in Otahu. So he rings Otahu. Hey, have you got a Coca-Cola? Yeah, I got a Coca-Cola. Why? Oh, I want a Coca-Cola. So George goes to Otahu, gets a Coca-Cola, and he's happy. Finish. Okay? So that's when you get to that stage, that's where you describe the situation. George went to Otahu to get the Coca-Cola. Okay? Just sentences like that, if you understand. And then you will get to the stage where you describe the story, the whole story. Now you might be thinking, why I want to learn about a guy going to Otahu to get a Coke. It's not that. What you're learning is the framework of verbs, nouns, of how words are put together, how structures are put together, so that you can speak in the different tenses, past tense, future tense, but using the words, the structures of the words, and just replace them. Oh, no, I'm not going to Otahu. I'm flying by plane to Australia. Same thing, just different verbs, different picture, but same structure. No the verbs, no the nouns. Okay.
Okay, number 3, this will be at the end of the class where everyone will be muted and then they're going to talk about the story. And then when they come back, the teacher will ask them, okay, describe the story. So you're going to say all what you learned in the class about the story, what you've learned so far.
So we're just at the end of this pre-class. We really just wanted to reinforce in the last slide or two. TPRS is based on comprehensible input, which means you're able to pick up messages and meanings of words, sentences, phrases by different inputs coming in to your brain and then sitting on your subconscious, whether it's through pictures, the teacher, the presentation, all of it is comprehensible input. Our purpose with TPRS is for you to be able to acquire the real by having this thing called comprehensible input and joining it with the interaction going between you and the teacher, the coach, the tutor, so that at the end of the day, you become fluent. You're able to speak Cook Island language. The end result that we want to get for you is what we started right at the beginning, the whole goal of TPRS. So we want to help you to learn to express yourself with strong, accurate, and confident communication with no hesitation. I roto tō tātou reo kuki aerangi. Koioki, the Cook Islands language. Okay? Maho te kai wera. Well, I think that's it for this evening. We want to thank you for hanging out with us. But we figured that, well, it's the least we could do is just run through in this time frame before you hit the class running, so that you have some understanding or some preview
Yeah.
of how things are going to run. If you have any questions or anything like that, just send an email to either nata@cookislandslanguage.com or nata@cookislandslanguage.com. Just
Yeah.
send it there and we'll pick it up, either one of us. But until next time we see you,
Ka kite. We'll
Be
see you in class.
be good, keep smiling, be happy. Kakite, we'll see you tomorrow. Okay. Night.